Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. I never thought my marriage would end like this. Lillian and I had been together for 7 years. We had a good life, nothing fancy, but we were happy. Or at least I thought we were. Then she met Vanessa. I remember the first time she mentioned her. "I made a new friend today," Lillian said one evening while we were having dinner. "Yeah? Who?" I asked, taking a sip of my drink. "Her name's Vanessa. She just moved to town. We met at the café." "Nice," I said, not thinking much of it. At first it was nothing, just two women becoming friends. But soon everything started changing. Lillian started spending more and more time with Vanessa. In the beginning, it was just coffee dates and shopping trips. Then it was late nights out. What I didn't know at the time was that Vanessa had been divorced twice, both times because of her cheating. I didn't know that her track record of failed relationships and betrayal would eventually start to affect Lillian, but that's exactly what happened. She stopped asking if I wanted dinner. The laundry piled up. The house, once neat and warm, started feeling different. And for the first time in years, I felt like a stranger in my own home. I didn't say anything right away. I told myself it was just a phase. Everyone needs friends, right? Maybe she just needed a little fun. But then the changes started. Lillian had always been someone who took care of things, our home, our meals, our life together. But suddenly, she didn't care about any of it. She stopped cooking. She stopped cleaning. She stopped asking about my day. One evening I came home from work and the house was a mess. Clothes thrown around, dishes piled up in the sink. Lillian was sitting on the couch, painting her nails, as if she didn't see any of it. "Rough day?" I asked, hoping she'd get the hint. She didn't even look up. "Not really. You?" I sighed. "Yeah, work was crazy. I thought maybe we could have dinner together." She blew on her nails. "I already ate with Vanessa." This was becoming a pattern. One night I found her in front of the mirror trying on a short dress. She never dressed like that before, not since we were dating. "Going somewhere?" I asked. "Out with Vanessa." "Again?" She turned to me, annoyed. "Yes, Gerald. Again. Is there a problem?" I clenched my jaw. "Lillian, you've been going out every night. What's going on with you?" She rolled her eyes. "Nothing is going on with me. I'm just enjoying my life for once." "For once?" I repeated. "Are you saying you weren't happy before?" She crossed her arms. "I was happy, Gerald, but I was also bored. I spent years cooking, cleaning, waiting for you to come home. Vanessa made me realize something. I deserve to have fun, too." I exhaled slowly, trying to stay calm. "Lillian, I never stopped you from having fun. But this is different. You've changed." "Maybe I needed to change," she snapped. I looked at her standing there in her tight dress, her makeup heavier than I'd ever seen. And for the first time, I wondered if I even knew my wife anymore. I couldn't stand it any longer. It felt like we were two strangers living in the same house. Vanessa, this woman she'd met recently, had become the center of her world, and I was just an afterthought. That night, I was sitting on the couch, waiting for Lillian to come back from wherever she was. I didn't want to start another argument, but I could feel the frustration building up inside me. When she finally walked in, she looked like she'd had a good time. Her hair was messy, her makeup smeared, and she was holding a small shopping bag in her hand. "Where have you been?" I asked, my voice calm, but I couldn't stop the anger bubbling underneath. She shrugged, kicking off her heels. "Out with Vanessa. Why do you care?" "I care because this isn't the woman I married," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You're never home anymore, and when you are, you're distant. You don't even notice the mess around here. It's like you don't even care." She threw the shopping bag on the counter, and I saw her eyes flash with annoyance. "I do care, Gerald. I'm just living my life. Is that really such a problem for you?" "Yes," I shouted, standing up from the couch. "It is. It's like you've turned into someone else. What happened to the woman I married? The woman who cared about this relationship? I think Vanessa has brainwashed you. But I guess that's what you get when you hang around someone who's been divorced twice, both times because of her cheating. I don't want you spending any more time with her." She folded her arms, looking at me like I was the one being unreasonable. "Maybe I grew up, Gerald. Maybe I realized I don't need you telling me what I should do with my time or who I should be hanging out with. I don't owe you anything. I was stunned. "You don't owe me anything?" I repeated, my voice trembling. "We're married, Lillian. That means we're supposed to care about each other, support each other, not just throw it all away." She rolled her eyes. "You make everything sound so dramatic. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm just taking some time for myself. Why is that such a big deal?" I was quiet for a moment, trying to control my anger. "Lillian, you're not just taking time for yourself. You're changing, and I don't think you even realize it." She raised an eyebrow, her tone cold. "Maybe I'm changing because I've been stuck in this house, waiting for you to pay attention to me. Maybe I don't want to be the perfect housewife anymore, Gerald. Maybe I just want to be me." The word stung, and something in my gut told me that there was more going on than she was letting on. "I don't know who you are anymore," I whispered. Lillian didn't say anything. She just walked past me, heading upstairs to our bedroom. The next few days were tense. Lillian continued her usual routine of being gone all the time. She'd come home late, barely acknowledge me, and then head straight to bed. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I had a conversation with one of my friends, Jason, who had always been there to listen. We grabbed coffee one afternoon, and I couldn't keep it in anymore. "Jason, something's wrong with Lillian," I said, running a hand through my hair. "She's changed. She's barely here, and when she is, it's like she's a completely different person." Jason looked at me with a raised eyebrow. "What do you mean, different?" "She's distant, you know," I said, trying to explain. "She's not the woman I married. She spends all her time with this new friend, Vanessa. Ever since they started hanging out, her behavior has changed. Vanessa's been divorced twice, both times because of her cheating, and she's a bad influence on Lillian. When she's not with her, Lillian's out partying or doing God knows what. She's not helping around the house, and hell, she barely even talks to me." Jason nodded slowly, like he was taking it all in. "Sounds like she's going through something, Gerald. Have you tried talking to her about it?" "I did," I muttered. "But every time I try, she shuts me down. She says I'm suffocating her, that I'm trying to control her life." Jason paused for a moment, then lowered his voice. You don't think she's seeing someone else, do you?" My stomach dropped. The thought had crossed my mind, but I pushed it away. I didn't want to believe it. "I don't know," I admitted. "But something doesn't feel right. I've caught her acting weird a few times, like when she's on the phone or when she's texting someone late at night. And she's just been different lately." Jason leaned forward, his voice serious. "Look, I hate to say this, but if you're feeling that way, you need to trust your gut. You need to find out for sure what's going on." "I don't want to be that guy, you know," I said, shaking my head. "I don't want to be the one who accuses her of cheating without any proof." "I get it," Jason said. "But Gerald, if she's really cheating, you have to know. You deserve to know the truth." I didn't say anything. I didn't want to think that this could be happening. But I knew deep down that Jason was right. I had to find out what was really going on. The next day, after a long day at work, it was around 9 p.m. when I left the office. Lillian was already out, of course, so I decided to take a walk to clear my head. But as I passed by the local bar, I froze. There, sitting on the patio, was Lillian. And not just her. She was sitting next to a guy, laughing. And across from her was none other than Vanessa. I couldn't make out the guy's face, but I could tell she was leaning on him, and he had his arm around her like they were a couple. My heart pounded in my chest. The familiar feeling of dread washed over me. I didn't want to believe it, but there it was, clear as day. I turned and walked quickly back to my car. I couldn't think straight. I felt sick to my stomach. Was she really doing this? Was she really out there with another man? I didn't sleep that night. I spent hours pacing around the house trying to convince myself I was just overreacting, that I was jumping to conclusions. But every time I closed my eyes, the image of Lillian laughing and hugging with that guy flashed in my mind. I couldn't shake it. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I had to confront her. I couldn't keep living in this uncertainty. I couldn't keep pretending like everything was fine when it was so clearly falling apart. Lillian came in around noon as usual. She didn't even look at me when she walked through the door. I was standing by the kitchen counter, my hands gripping the edge tightly. I could feel my heart racing. "Lillian," I said, my voice low but steady, "we need to talk." She didn't respond at first. I could hear her setting her purse down on the counter, then rustling through the drawers. Finally, she looked up at me, her face unreadable. "About what?" she asked, her tone flat. "About what I saw last night," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "You were at the bar with a guy, and Vanessa." Her eyes flickered for a second, but she quickly masked her surprise. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said coolly, turning back to the sink. "I wasn't with anyone." "Don't lie to me," I snapped. "I saw you, Lillian. You were sitting with him, leaning on him. You were laughing together. What the hell is going on?" Her back stiffened. She didn't turn around, but I could feel the tension radiating off of her. "You don't trust me, do you?" she said quietly. "Of course I trust you," I yelled. "But how can I trust you when you're acting like this? You've been acting different for weeks now. You're never home. You're always out with Vanessa. And when I try to talk to you, you shut me out. And now this, what am I supposed to think?" She finally turned to face me, and there was a coldness in her eyes that I hadn't seen before. "Maybe you should stop thinking so much," she said, her voice sharp. "Maybe I don't need to explain myself to you every time I want to go out or spend time with my friends. I'm not your property, Gerald." I was stunned. It felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me. "What did you just say?" "I said I'm not your property. I'm not your prisoner, and I don't owe you an explanation for everything I do. If I want to go out, I will. If I want to hang out with people, I will. You don't control me." "You're cheating on me, aren't you?" The words came out before I could stop them. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. Lillian's face twisted in anger, but there was something else in her eyes, something almost like guilt or shame. "I don't know what you want from me, Gerald," she said, her voice quieter now. "Yes, I've been seeing someone, and I've been spending a lot of time with him. And no, I'm not sorry." I felt my world crumble around me. "You're serious?" "Yeah, I am," she said flatly. "I don't love you anymore, Gerald. I haven't for a while now, and I don't owe you anything, not even an explanation. I don't owe you anything anymore." I stood there numb. The words didn't feel real, like I was hearing them from somewhere far away. How had we gotten here? How had the woman I loved turned into someone so distant? She didn't need to say anything more. The truth was already sinking in. I knew what was happening. Our marriage was over. The next few weeks were a blur. Lillian moved out almost immediately after our argument, taking most of her things with her. It was like a bomb had gone off in my life, and all I could do was watch the wreckage unfold. I didn't even know how to handle the emotions swirling inside me. Anger, sadness, betrayal. It was all too much. Jason was there for me through it all as much as he could be. He'd check in on me, listen to me vent, offer advice, but in the end it was clear that nothing was going to fix this. Nothing was going to bring Lillian back. I filed for divorce, and the process was painful but necessary. Lillian had moved in with her new boyfriend shortly after leaving me, and I couldn't bring myself to speak to her. The divorce moved quickly. We didn't argue over property. She'd taken what she wanted, and I didn't care. I just wanted to be free. The divorce was finalized in a few months. Just like that, my marriage was over. Time passed, and slowly life started to feel normal again. I focused on work, rekindled old hobbies, and began to think about my future. I cut off contact with Lillian and didn't look back. I didn't know if I could ever trust her again, but I knew I couldn't keep living in the past. For the first time in a long while, I felt okay. Eventually, I heard that Lillian had broken up with her new boyfriend. But honestly, I didn't care. It wasn't my problem anymore. Then one day I ran into her at the grocery store. She looked different, shorter hair, more put together, but there was nervous energy in her eyes. We stood there for a moment, unsure of what to say. "Gerald," she said, her voice shaky, "I didn't expect to run into you." "Yeah, me neither," I replied, unsure of what to feel. She paused, then spoke again. "I made a huge mistake. Leaving you was the worst decision I've ever made. I want to try again. I want us to fix this." I stared at her, and for a moment I wanted to scream at her, but I was tired. I couldn't go back to that life. "No," I said, shaking my head. "I've moved on. What you did broke me. I can't go back." She looked defeated and whispered, "I understand." She walked away, and I stood there with a strange sense of relief. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was free. That moment marked the end of my marriage, and the end of the person I used to be. I realized I didn't need her to be happy. Life was waiting for me. Thank you for watching.